Hey guys, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Been a while, sorry, I've been working on my Land Rover a lot, as you'll see from the state of my hands, so I'm sorry about that. If you want to see my Land Rover, it's now running. You can go over and see it at Nigel's Land Rover channel, and that's all coming on together now, so we get that finished and then we'll start doing some good mods to it. First of all, before we start this video, I want to give a shout out to one of my original followers, James Mower, obviously how you spell that, James and M-O-W-E-R. He's had the very unfortunate problem of having a heart attack recently. He took his dog for a walk innocently, as you do, and collapsed. Managed to find his way home, collapsed on the living room floor. He described it as feeling like a Lancaster had flown into his chest, and I bet it did. So he has got a YouTube channel. Go and have a look at some of his work and subscribe. It's very, very new channel, very small. Go and have a look and perhaps cheer him up, make his day sort of thing. But anyway, I hope you're getting better, James. Glad you got to hospital and everything, and hope you're feeling good. So anyway, this video today is, again, another one of my followers, Keith. He likes to recommend different tools and stuff to me, and try this and try that and try something else. And I tend to not like trumpeter tools. I've had a couple. I think the riveter is absolutely useless. If you put any pressure on it, the stainless steel wheel just cups into its plastic axle, which is just awful. I've got their saw, their little green saw things, which are very thin and bend very easily. And I got their bigger black handled saw, this one here, which is okay if you're hacking stuff out, but it's got not very much control because it's also flexible, and also the blade likes to just come out as well. So it's all a bit, you know, it's a bit plasticky and cheap, really. But having said that, Keith suggested these to me, and these are the single blade nippers from Trumpeter. Now, as you know, some of the nippers we use, like my Tamiya Nippers, they've got two blades on them, so they have a scissor action. Well, it's not a scissor action, they have a chopping action. They come together and chop. We'll talk about the different actions in a minute. These actually have one blade, so you've got one flat and one blade, so it's like an anvil and a flat coming up to it, and it's absolutely critical they're correctly adjusted, or you just break the blades, because to be strong they need to be hard, and because they're hard they're going to be brittle. So we'll talk about that. So basically, if you're new to the modelling world, you've probably started off with something like this. These cheap pressed steel. It's just a piece of pressed steel bent up and then ground to a sharp end. This is what I always used for years and years and years, and they're the sort of cheapest ones you can get. This is the sort of thing you're going to get with your starter kits that you get on Amazon and stuff. You can see this is all covered in resin and stuff, but you know, they work, they do the job, but they give you a bit more cleanup to do. And the other thing is, because they tend to be not very sharp, when you cut the parts you tend to rip a chunk of plastic out, and I'll show you that in a second. So that's the sort of cheaper ones, and then you might want to move up to your sort of, you know, Citadel ones, which look very pretty, all bolted together with Torx bolts and anodized aluminium and this, that and the other. But they are a bit, they open up too wide, I always find. You sort of, you know, you hold an assembly, you go to pick up your nippers, and oh God, you know, you just want to pick them up. You don't want to be wrestling with them. They open up too far. I always used to put a rubber band on it when I use them. And they do have quite a steep angle on the teeth, on the blades there, you can see. So they do tend to be stronger, but they do tend to chip very easily, and they also they're not very sharp. I wouldn't recommend them for what they cost you, but I think probably these old things here are better than these, to be honest. That's just my opinion. Right, sorry guys, camera went there. The battery was discharged. If you are thinking about getting one of these ZV-1 cameras, there's a couple of things that I haven't heard people talk about. Maybe they have, I've just missed it. While the camera is actually in use and plugged into the computer, it's not charging. So you can't make a continuously long video with the camera charging as you're using it. It discharges the battery while it's actually working. So while it's on and connected to the computer, it won't charge. If you've got the PC remote function on, so I can look at my PC and I can go, and I can see my hands, I can't download. So every time I do a video, I have got to go in, turn the PC remote off, turn the camera off, then turn the camera back on, and it will go into its download mode where I can download. And then I've got to remember to turn the camera off so that it goes back into charging mode. If I leave it on, then it doesn't charge, and then if it switches itself off because it's discharged, it doesn't charge. So basically you have to physically switch it off and then it will go into the mode and charge. It's a little bit of a daft feature, I think. If you leave it on, I think it should, maybe if they can't have it charging while it's being used, maybe have it so if it discharges, it switches itself off and then it charges while it's off. I don't know. iPhones do it. So, well, iPhones charge while you're using them. So anyway, that's that little bone over. So where were we? So I showed you these cutters over here, the Citadels and everything, and compared them to the steel ones. The next thing you can look at is ones like these. Now these are Jurons. These are also Jurons here, the black ones. And for the cheaper, the steel press steel, they are quite nice. But these are actually for photo etch. And as you can see here, everything else we're looking at is it's jaws coming together like this, okay? It's not a scissor action, it's a cutting action, whereas these are a scissor action. You can see there's a scissor action there, okay? And they're designed for photo etch. Now you don't want to be using them on plastic parts because it's actually cutting, and you can see the width of the blade. As it cuts, it's got to push those apart, so it's either going to break your part, damage your part, or move sprue out of the way or something. So no good for your plastic parts, but very, very good for photo etch, although I tend to use a board and a knife. I don't like using cutters for photo etch. So next on the line, these are my favourites. These are the Tamiya cutters. So you've got the 74035, which is this one here with the shorter blade on it, okay? Now these are a lot stronger, so they're probably better for everyday use than these. These are the 74129, I think, and you can see they've got a longer blade on them. You can see they go down to a finer point there, okay? And the blades are cut at a far steeper angle, so they're much sharper, but they're very weak. As you can tell with this pair here, as I've shown you many times before, got a chip in there, and that's just from cutting plastic. So I think the 74035 is probably the best to go for if you want to get yourself some Tamiya cutters. Now there's all sorts of different ones. There's Mr. Hobby out there, there's God Hands and all that, and what you really need to do is try them and see which ones you like the best. Now the God Hands, I think are like 70 or 90 pounds or something, but just try them out and see if you like them. If they last, these tend to be about 35 pounds. If they last twice as long as these, then they're worth 70 pound. If you don't like them, they're not worth anything. So there we go, that's the Tamiya cutters. These I would say are probably my favourite. I prefer these to use, but they do blunt very quickly and they chip very easily. So let's just concentrate on the 74035. Now as I say, Keith sent me this Trumpeter one, and this is a single blade nipper. And as I say, this is a flat face with the blade coming up to it. These, the Tamiya ones, are two blades coming together. So we'll get those out of the way because I happen to have, from Premium Hobbies, a brand new set of 74035s. Now I've opened them so that you don't have to watch me remove the staples, but they've never been used, either of these, okay? So, I did actually try these on one piece of plastic just to see what they're like. But as I say, I'm not a big fan of Trumpeter tools, but Keith got me these, paid for them and had them sent to me, paid the postage and everything, thank you Keith, to try and change my mind. So I'm going to use these in my Lancaster build. Now, let's just get these open, if I can. Come on. There you go. Right, so we get these out. Now, the first thing we notice is something that concerns me. Up to 3mm plastic, only for plastic, okay? Made of special carbonate is indispensable molded plastic model parts, only for plastic. Never cut any metal, do not use on electrical applications. It's like it's covered in these sort of be careful, which to me, it shows that they might be weak. I don't know, maybe they're quite brittle and will break easily, we shall see. On the Tamiya ones you can see, it says on here, sharp pointed side cutter, 74035, and it shows you how to use them on sprues. Now I can't read Japanese, maybe it says in there, but don't use them on anything else but plastic. But basically, I mean, I think they're absolutely brilliant. So we'll get these out as well, and then we're comparing new for new. We're not comparing, because it's not fair to compare a brand new pair of Trumpeters with an old pair of Tamiyas and vice versa. So this is the Tamiya 74035 and this is the Trumpeter over here. Okay, now one of the things you have to be careful with the Tamiyas, they have no adjustment on, no setting. You notice they don't open up too wide, which is nice. These are a bit sticky actually, they will ease up with use. But you can just put them down and pick them up. Okay, they're not like those Citadels. And it's the same with the Trumpeter. The Trumpeter ones have got a stop in here. The Tamiya ones are engineered that way, so they stop. Okay, so you've got a definite stop on there. These you can actually pull open further, but the spring won't push them any further than it needs to. So, as I say, the big difference on these, you've got a blunt, I don't know if I'm going to pick it up on the camera, but you've got you can see on this side we have a blunt face. Okay, it's a blunt face on there, and on this side we have a cutting edge. So this is kind of like a guillotine, whereas this is like a pair of shears, if you like. Well, not shears, is it? It's two slicing moments, I guess. Now, the one thing you have to be careful of with these, as I say, they're going to be quite brittle, so they've given us an adjustment, and you can see in here there is an Allen screw with a lock nut. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is set these up to make sure they're okay. So I'm going to undo the lock nut. And these are just Tamiya pliers that came in I think they came in a Harley Davidson motorcycle kit. And what I'm going to do is wind this Allen screw in. So on the end of there. We'll wind this Allen screw in. And as you can see, if I wind it right in, like that, it stops the blade coming together. It's hitting on there before it hits the blade. And what I'm going to do is use a piece of paper as a test. Okay, so we put a piece of paper in there, and then I can loosen the Allen screw. Until it's just nipping the paper, and as you can see, it's not cutting the paper, but it is holding it. So we'll just come off a touch more, just a touch. And what I want to do is have it so that if I squeeze really hard, it cuts the paper, and that way I know that if I don't squeeze really hard, the blade isn't going to break or wear out. Okay, so we'll come off a little bit more. It's worth taking your time doing this, gents, because it's, there we go, you can hear it. If I put it in there normally and hold it, it's not cutting the paper, but if I squeeze, it just slices the paper. So we'll hold the Allen screw there, where it is, and we'll just nip up our lock nut. This is probably going to make a change to the setting. Nope, there we go. If I put it on the paper and I squeeze, it doesn't cut. If I give it a good hard squeeze, there you go, it cuts the paper. Okay, so that's how you want to set those up, and then and don't squeeze them hard. So there we are. So that's those now ready to go. Okay, just make sure that lock nut is done up. There we are. Okay, so there we go. Right, so they're set up ready to go now. So if you have got a set of these, that is basically how I would go about setting them up to make them last the longest. With these, just don't go squeezing them. I mean, I'll get this old pair here that's already chipped. Here we go. If I squeeze these really hard, I don't know what will happen. I don't know if they're not chipping, but the blades are actually overlapping now. So if I squeeze them really hard, you can see normally they come together. If I squeeze them really hard, they overlap. So these I think are probably going to be tougher than these, but we shall see. Right, so the test is going to be cutting plastic, because after all that's what they're for. So I've got a sprue from the 1/48 scale HK Lancaster, and I'm going to use the engine parts for this because I don't care if I damage them, because I'm not going to be displaying the engines, basically because I think they're probably a bit too small, and also they've left out the frames, the engine support members, the bearers, so pretty stupid having engines displayed with nothing holding them in there. So first of all, I've got some Airfix plastic here. This is from the Airfix Hellcat, and these are the gun bays. Okay, so first of all, what we'll do is we'll go in with the Trumpeter, and what I'm going to do is we've got on this side here, this is the anvil and this is the blade. So I'll butt the anvil up against the part and then just cut. Okay, so we'll have a look at that. And what I'm going to do is just put a dot on each end. There's no point putting a T because Tamiya Trumpeter. Yeah, so we've got a dot on each end, so we can see that that is actually with the Trumpeter. And then we'll do the same again with the Tamiya. Again, as I say, they're brand new, so it's like for like. Okay, so as we can see on here, if we put the three together, we can see that the Trumpeter has made a very close cut. It's light grey plastic, isn't it? But the Trumpeter has made a, let's turn the lighting down. The Trumpeter has made a very close cut and left hardly anything on there at all. Okay, now if I go over that with a pen, try and display this. If I go over with a pen and then give it a very light sanding with a worn out 400 grit, you can pretty much see there's hardly anything left because it's removing plastic. Come on, camera. It's removing plastic from that edge. But there's hardly anything there. On the other side, the Tamiya, you can see there's a bigger nib on there. You can see quite a nib left. So in that test with the softer plastic, it does look like the Trumpeters are far superior. Now if I just try it again on here, I push in hard, you can see if you push in hard you can get closer, but you don't need to push in hard with the Trumpeter. So, you know, you pays your money, you takes your choice. Now the Tamiya cutters come out at about £35. These come out at about £20. So, you know, these are nearly twice the price of these. So, you know, there's something else you want to be thinking about. But however, saying that, if you want to get these from Premium Hobbies, use my discount code NMB10 and they come down to like £31 or whatever. So then it's not such a massive difference. But what I'll do is I will use these going forward in my builds and we'll see how well they last. And if Keith is correct, then I'll be converted. I'm not a Tamiya fanboy. As far as this harder plastic goes, we can see on here, push that in there, and it does sort of feel, I must be honest, it feels kind of like the plastic's softer than it really is. You can see on there we've got some very small nibs, but they're very, very small. I'll try this again with the Tamiya one. So the left hand engine is Tamiya, so Tamiya's left, remember that one, guys. Something like that. And I would say that probably, this one is Trumpeter, this one is Tamiya. I would say that probably, again, the Trumpeter is better. Now, I say the Trumpeter is better, the Trumpeter has left a smaller nib. The difference we're talking is like the stroke of a blade or an extra stroke of a sanding stick. So they're not like a million miles apart. So, yes, these are the first single-sided cutters I've ever had. They are one of the cheaper sets, sorry, these are one of the cheaper sets of cutters on the market. So basically, I think really it's all about you pays your money, you takes your choice. As I say, I will use these going forward. I've shown you how to adjust them, and I'll use these going forward and we'll go from there. But you can see we can come up very close to these parts. You've got to be careful with these exhausts because they look like they're sprue nibs, but they're not. So we can cut them off of there. And you can hear there's no clicking sound or anything. They're just literally, oh there you go, there's a clicking sound there. It feels like they're cutting marzipan, it's really weird. But it's always a good sign when you use nippers and this happens. You see how the part stayed on the sprue, it's like it's removed no plastic, and then you can just pop it out like that. Then we could come in here, remove all these bits here, and as we can see, it's doing a really nice job, and then you can come in afterwards and clean up. So there we go. If we go back to the Tamiyas and we cut these off, I would say there is not a whole lot of difference, to be fair. The biggest difference with these is in price. We can see that we've got a very tiny sprue nib here, very tiny sprue nib there. Then when we look at the trumpeter parts on the end of those exhausts, for example, there are some tiny little sprue nibs there, but I think really back to back in this little test, there's not really much difference in them. If anything, the trumpeter's leaving a smaller nib. The problem comes is when you've used these for a bit. When they become a bit blunt and worn out, if I just show you this here, these are pretty well worn out. If I go in close, I don't think it's going to work on the HK because the plastic's so hard, but you run the risk. It hasn't done it because also the on the HK it's beautifully designed. I know it's unlikely to pay compliments to HK guys, but most of the sprue nibs are actually on the face, which I like. A lot of people don't like that, but I love that. But when you actually cut the parts off the sprue, as they get older, they will actually pull a chunk of the part out. So it's best when you are cutting your parts out to lay back. Now they don't give you much room here, but it's best to lay back and leave a decent bit of sprue on there. Okay, like that. You can see I've got sprue nibs sticking out, and then you can come in even with your older ones, and you can come in afterwards and clean up like this. And then we can go to the face and clean up like that. Okay, so as your cutters get older, you want to stay away from trying to get them off in one go. But yeah, with these things, we can come in and just go straight up close like that. Bang, bang. That's that done. And then these little bits that are left on the bottom, you can come in and nip those off just like so. So there we go. There we are. So that's been a quick review. I'll be honest, I like them. Thank you very much, Keith, for sending them because I never would have bought them. But as I say, we'll go forward and we'll see how they go. I've got a magnifier here 10 times. I just want to look at the quality and see what's happened to the blades. And already this is just an eyeglass, okay? But already I can see, no, it's not, sorry, I thought it was marking, it's bits of plastic on there looking like it had dents in it. So, and looking at these look, the Tamiya ones look a lot sharper. But time will tell. This is the thing with tools, it's not necessarily how brilliant they are at the outset, it's how they are in a few weeks time or in a few months time. And as you can see, these are probably 3 years old, 4 years old. These are probably 2 years old. And these are about a year old. And these are a few minutes old. So, you know, you can see the Tamiya ones just go on and on and on and on. But the we'll see how these do. Thanks for watching, guys. I will be using these. I must get on and start this Lancaster build for you. I know you're all keen to see it. So we'll get it going maybe this weekend. Bye for now.